Hey guys, welcome back to our chapter book reading of Wonder. This might be our last day with this book because we're so close to finishing, so I'm going to jump right into it. Next chapter is called Take Your Seats, Everyone. Jack and I walked right behind a couple of sixth graders into the building and then followed them to the auditorium. Mrs. G was at the entrance, handing out the programs and telling kids where to go. Fifth graders, down the aisle to the left, she said. Sixth graders, go to the right. Everyone come in. Come in. Good morning. Go to your staging areas. Fifth graders to the left, sixth grade to the right. The auditorium was huge inside. Big sparkly chandeliers, red velvet walls, rows and rows of cushioned seats leading up to the giant stage. We walked down the wide aisle and followed the signs to the fifth grade staging area, which was in a big room to the left of the stage. Inside were 4 rows of folding chairs facing the front of the room, which is where Miss Rubin was standing, waving us in as soon as we walked into the room. Okay, kids, take your seats, she was saying, pointing to the rows of chairs. Don't forget you're sitting in alphabetical order. Come on, everyone, take your seats. Not too many kids had arrived yet, though, and the ones who had weren't listening to her. Me and Jack were sword fighting with our rolled up programs. Hey guys, it was Summer walking over to us. She was wearing a light pink dress, and I think a little makeup. Wow, Summer, you look awesome, I told her, because she really did. Really? Thanks. You do too, Augie. Yeah, you look okay, Summer, said Jack, kind of matter-of-factly, and for the first time, I realized that Jack had a crush on Summer. This is so exciting, isn't it? Said Summer. Yeah, kind of, I answered, nodding. Oh man, look at this program, said Jack, scratching his forehead. We're gonna be here all stinking day. I looked at my program. I'm not gonna read it all, but look. It's a long program, which means a lot of people are gonna be talking. Goodness gracious. Why do you think that? I asked. Because Mr. Jansen's speech goes on forever, said Jack. He's even worse than Tushman. My mom said she actually dozed off when he spoke last year, Summer added. What's the award presentation? I asked. That's where they give medals to the biggest brainiacs, Jack answered, which would mean Charlotte and Shin will win everything in 5th grade, just like Charlotte won everything in 4th grade and in 3rd grade. Not in 2nd grade? I laughed. They didn't give those awards out in 2nd grade, he answered. Maybe you'll win this year, I joked. Not unless they give awards for the most C's, he laughed. Everyone take your seats. Miss Rubin started yelling louder now, like she was getting annoyed that no one was listening to her. We have a lot to get through, so take your seats. Don't forget you're sitting alphabetically. A through G, first row. H through N, second row. O through Q, third row. R through Z is the last row. Let's go, people! We should go sit down, said Summer, walking toward the front section. You guys are definitely coming over to my house after this, right? I called out after her. Definitely, she said, taking her seat next to Chin. When did Summer get so cute? Jack muttered in my ear. Dude, shut up, I said, laughing as we headed to the 3rd row. Seriously, when did that happen? He whispered, taking the seat next to mine. Mr. Will, Miss Rubin shouted. Last time I checked, W came between R and Z, yes? Jack looked at her blankly. Dude, you're in the wrong row, I said. I am? And the face he made as he got up to leave was a mixture of looking completely confused and looking like he played a joke on someone. Totally cracked me up. Next chapter, A Simple Thing. About an hour later, we were all seated in the giant auditorium waiting for Mr. Tushman to give his middle school address. The auditorium was even bigger than I imagined it would be. Bigger than the one at Via School. I looked around and there must have been 1 million people in the audience. Okay, maybe not 1 million, but a lot. Thank you, Headmaster Jansen, for those kind words of introduction, said Mr. Tushman, standing behind the podium on the stage. Welcome, my fellow teachers and members of the faculty. Welcome, parents and grandparents, friends and honored guests, and most especially, welcome to my 5th and 6th grade students. Welcome to Beecher Prep Middle School graduation ceremonies. Everyone clapped. Every year, continued Mr. Tushman, reading from his notes, I am charged with writing 2 commencement addresses. One for the 5th and 6th grade auditorium ceremony today, and one for the 7th and 8th grade ceremony that will take place tomorrow. And every year I say to myself, Let me cut down on my work and write just one that I can use in both situations. Seems like it shouldn't be a hard thing to do, right? And yet, each year, I still end up with 2 different speeches, no matter what my intentions, and I finally figured out why this year. It's not as you might assume, simply because tomorrow I'll be talking to an older crowd with middle school experience that is largely behind them, whereas you middle school experience is largely in front of you. Now, I think it has to do more with the particular age that you are at right now. This particular moment in your lives that, even after 20 years of my being around students this age, still moves me. Because you're at the cusp, kids. You're at the edge between childhood and everything that comes after. You're in transition. We're all gathered here today, Mr. Tushman continued, taking off his glasses, all your families, friends, and teachers to celebrate not only your achievements this past year, beat your middle schoolers, but your endless possibilities. When you reflect on this past year, I want you all to look at where you are now and where you've been. You've all gotten a little taller, a little stronger, a little smarter, I hope. Here, some people in the audience chuckled. But the best way to measure how you've grown isn't by inches or the number of laps you can now run around the track or even your grade point average. Though those things are important, to be sure, it's what you've done with your time, how you've chosen to spend your days, and whom you've touched this year. That, to me, is the greatest measure of success. There's a wonderful line in a book by J.M. Barrie, and no, it's not Peter Pan, and I'm not going to ask you to clap if you believe in fairies. Here, everyone laughed again. But in another book called The Little White Bird, he writes, "Shall we make a new rule of life? Always to try to be a little kinder than is necessary." Here, Mr. Tushman looked up at the audience. "Kinder than is necessary," he repeated. What a marvelous line, isn't it? Kinder than is necessary. But it's not enough to be kind. One should be kinder than needed. Why, I love that line, that concept. It is that it reminds me that we carry with us as human beings not just the capacity to be kind, but the very choice of kindness. What does that mean? How is that measured? You can't use a yardstick or a ruler. It's like I was saying before. It's not like measuring how much you've grown in a year. It's not exactly quantifiable, is it? How do we know you've been kind? What is being kind anyway? There's another passage in a different book that I'd like to share. If you'll bear with me while I find it. Here we go. In Under the Eye of the Clock by Christopher Nolan, the main character is a young man who is facing some extraordinary challenges. There's this one part where someone helps him, a kid in his class. On the surface, it's a small gesture. But to this young man, whose name is Joseph, it's, well, if you'll permit me, he cleared his throat and read from the book. It was at a moment such as these that Joseph recognized the face of God in human form. It glimmered in their kindness to him, it glowed in their keenness, it hinted in their caring, indeed, it caressed in their gaze. He paused and took off his reading glasses. It glimmered in their kindness to him, he repeated, smiling. Such a simple thing, kindness. Such a simple thing. A nice word of encouragement given when needed, an act of friendship, a passing smile. Children, what I want to impact to you today is an understanding of the value of a simple thing called kindness. And that's all I want to leave you with today. And I know I'm kind of infamous for my long speeches. Here everyone laughed again. But what I want you, my students, to take away from your middle school experience is a sure knowledge that in the future you make for yourselves, anything is possible. If every single person in this room made it a rule that wherever you are, whenever you can, you will try to act a little kinder than is necessary, the world really would be a better place. And if you do this, if you act just a little kinder than necessary, someone else, somewhere, someday may recognize you in every single one of you, the big picture of kindness. He paused and shrugged. Parents started clapping and cheering. Everyone was looking at him. It was a great day. Next chapter is called Awards. I liked Mr. Tushman's speech, but I have to admit, I kind of zoned out a little during some of the other speeches. I tuned in again when Miss Rubin started reading off the names of kids who'd made the high honor roll because we were supposed to stand up when our name was called. So I waited and listened for my name as she went down the list alphabetically. Reed Kingsley, Maya Markwitz, August Pullman. I stood up. Then when she finished reading off the names, she asked us all to face the audience and take a bow, and everyone applauded. I had no idea where in that huge crowd my parents might be sitting. All I could see were flashes of light from people taking photos and parents waving at their kids. I pictured Mom waving at me from somewhere, even though I couldn't see her. Then Mr. Tushman came back to the podium to present the medals for academic excellence. And Jack was right. Chin won the gold medal for overall academic excellence in the 5th grade. Charlotte won the silver. Charlotte also won a gold medal for music. Amos won the medal for overall excellence in sports, which I was really happy about because ever since the nature retreat, I considered Amos to be like one of my best friends in school. But I was really thrilled when Mr. Tushman called out Summer's name for the gold medal in creative writing. I saw Summer put her hand over her mouth when her name was called, and when she walked up on stage, I yelled, "Woohoo, Summer!" as loudly as I could, though I don't think she heard me. After the last name was called, all of the kids who just won awards stood next to each other on stage, and Mr. Tushman said to the audience, "Ladies and gentlemen, I am very honored to present you with this year's Beecher Prep School Scholastic Achievers. Congratulations to you all." I applauded as the kids on stage bowed. I was so happy for Summer. "The final award this morning," said Mr. Tushman, after the kids on stage had returned to their seats, "is the Henry Ward Beecher Medal to honor students who have been notably or exemplary in certain areas throughout the school year. Typically, this medal has been our way of acknowledging volunteerism or service at the school. I immediately figured Charlotte would get this medal because she organized the coat drive this year, so I kind of zoned out a bit again. I looked at my watch, 10:56. I was getting hungry for lunch already. Henry Ward Beecher was, of course, the 19th century and a fiery sermonizer for human rights, after whom the school was named after," Mr. Tushman said. "While reading up on his life in preparation for this award, I came upon a passage that he wrote that seemed particularly consistent with the themes I touched on earlier. Not just the nature of kindness, but the nature of one's kindness, the power of one's friendship, and the test of one's character, the strength of one's courage. And here's the weirdest thing that happened. Mr. Tushman's voice cracked up a bit, like he got all choked up. He actually cleared his throat and took a big sip of water. I started paying attention, for real now, to what he was saying. The strength of one's courage, he repeated quietly, and smiling, he held up his right hand like he was counting off. Courage, kindness, friendship, character. These are the qualities that define us as human beings and propel us on to greatness. And that is what Henry Ward Beecher's medal is about, recognizing that greatness. But how do we do that? How do we measure something like greatness? Again, there's no yardstick for something like that. Well, Beecher actually had an answer for it. He put on his reading glasses again. "Greatness," wrote Beecher, "lies not in being strong, but in the right using of strength. He is the greatest whose strength carries up the most hearts." And again, out of the blue, he got all choked up. He put his 2 index fingers over his mouth. "He is the greatest," he finally continued, "whose strength carries up the most hearts by the attraction of his own. Without further ado, this year, I am very proud to award the Henry Ward Beecher Medal to the student whose quiet strength has carried up the most hearts." That's where I'm going to end it. You'll find out tomorrow who won the award. Go on, answer the question of the day. Bye, guys. Actually, real quick, I know today is Friday, but I'm going to continue this with another recording for today, okay? Bye, guys.